Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Leadership Warriors. That's right, Leadership Warriors number 5. I'm here with Richard Conway, special guest today on the show. Richard is the CEO of Pure SEO in New Zealand. Not only does Richard run one of the top SEO firms in existence, but he serves as an advisor and mentor to countless business leaders via the New Zealand Entrepreneurs Organization. Richard, it's awesome to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us literally from across the globe. I wanted to ask you, you had a chance to hang out with Sir Richard Branson recently with a group of elite entrepreneurs. What did you learn from that experience?
And there were so many things I learned. It was 5 days on Necker Island, which is Branson's island. He was with us, and there were about 25, 30 entrepreneurs from around the world, and they all kind of descended on this place. And because it was just us and there was no one else there, everyone kind of opened up. We met some incredible people. There were a few things that sort of stuck out and common themes across. And one was about culture in companies and how culture is so important to breeding a successful company that grows and actually helps itself out. There was one guy who ran a big company in the US, and he called his culture familia. So everyone was like a family member. And funnily enough, that's very sort of in keeping with what we do here. We've got this sort of brand guidelines that talk about trust, respect, integrity, and family. And then above that is shiny, happy people, because we're all optimists. And then when we employ people, they have to adhere to all of those things. And if they don't, no matter how good they are, they're simply not right for Pure SEO. And when people start, they actually sign a printed version of that, and so that they know that that's what they're signing into.
Got it. And so how does that translate to things like training and performance management? I mean, a lot of organizations we talk to do adopt this notion of having a family at work and treating people well. But on a tactical level, how does that translate to helping perhaps newer employees or junior employees, rise up and meet their talent potential?
So we got a really flat structure here. So I'm the CEO, I started the business, I sit with everybody else. When a new person comes on board, rather than celebrating when people leave, which is quite a natural thing to do, we actually celebrate when people join. So we have a celebration, a welcome celebration, and we get our various other offices up on the screen. So we've got an office in Manila, we've got an office in Melbourne, we've got an office in Wellington, and everyone involved. And what the idea is, we all go around and we introduce each other and something that we don't know about each other. So it gets harder and harder the more of these you do in a growing company, but you get to learn a little more about each other. And I think that helps break down some barriers. And then on a Friday we do show and tell, and the purpose of that is for people to come up with ideas and show things that they've got. I also personally sit down with everyone when they join and let them know about the company structure and let them know that regardless of their role, if they find something cool, we'll implement it. A good example is one of the issues we had in our business was communication, internal communication. And we had this graduate came in and he couldn't believe how many emails we sent between each other. So he introduced us to Slack. Slack's now an integral part of our business. And so there is the ability to put these things in that actually happen in a fast-growing entrepreneurial environment. The other thing is our head of operations started off as a secretary 3.5 years ago on base salary, and now she runs the entire operations because she's shown how capable she is. So if people demonstrate how capable they are in a fast-growing company, there is the ability for them to actually raise above everybody else and actually have these opportunities. But to a large extent, it is down to them showing what they're able to do. If someone's really quiet and really just gets on with it, it's much harder for them to progress, because obviously as you grow, it's harder to identify those.
Sure. And so when you're doing Friday show and tells, I mean, that represents a significant time investment for you. Is it simply because you've acknowledged that good ideas can come from everyone, or and it's just simply listening to them and implementing those ideas? I mean, what are all the other benefits that, for example, employees are getting from that?
So apart from time investment, there's actually a cost investment as well, because we lay on food and drinks every Friday. And it's actually run not by myself, it's actually run by the team leaders. And so the first part of it actually involves the team leaders or whoever going around giving shout outs to other people who have done cool stuff. And so because we've grown as an organization, when it was small in the early days, that communication, pats on the back and things like that were really easy to achieve. As we've grown, I think in this office we've got 50 odd people, it's much harder to get that. So the show and tell allows everyone to know the cool things that people have been doing, the results we've been getting, and so that goes through the organisation. We also do something called Pure Acts, which sort of once every couple of months, over the months, if someone's done something cool or helped someone, we put something in the box, it's on the staff for each other, and at the end of the duration of that thing, whoever wins, and again it's voted on by the staff, gets a really cool prize. And in this, the next prize is they get a helicopter flight out to Waiheke, which is this vineyard island, which is cool. On the show and tell, it's also about teaching the different teams different elements, because we're quite siloed in the skill sets. We've got a sales team, we've got an account management team, we've got a technical team, we've got a content team, and so it's about educating the other teams about things that are changing within that. And so that when the sales guys are going out or the account managers are going out, they're aware to talk about these things.
Got it. And so I'll have to ask some of your employees about the helicopter ride at some point. That sounds awesome, and really speaks to, I think, the notion of employee recognition as well as being one of those things that, you know, positivity absolutely begets positivity. Richard, I wanted to ask you, you know, you're known for having actually walked away from business in a case where you needed to take care of an employee, and that actually took priority over a business that was on the table. Can you share what happened and why you did that?
And there's been a few examples actually over the years of that. So the first example is we had this American lady called Jenny who worked for us. And when she joined us, she'd worked for someone else and hadn't treated her particularly well. And she'd been with us for, say, a year and a half. And she's awesome. Like, she's one of these people who, incredibly kind, incredibly hardworking. Just, I don't know how you could not like her. Very engaging individual. And then she's sitting there in the office, and her old employees come in for a pitch with one of the sales guys, and she never said anything. One of the other people told me, and so ultimately I went and had a chat with her, and she said, look, you know, bring them on, but this is what happened. But, you know, it's not all about the money, and said we just kind of withdrew from the process, because in my view it's really short-termism. You've got to look after your staff, number one, really. Ultimately, you look after your staff, everything benefits. If you start disenfranchising your staff, it erodes the culture. Another example is later on, we signed this client, and they're a big client. They're spending thousands a month. But they expected blood, and they'd phone up and they'd expect staff members to be there within 10 minutes of them calling, just straight Uber, regardless of what they were doing. It was stressing people out really badly. And so after 3 months of them being a client, I just sort of picked up the phone, and we've got in our contracts we can give 1 month's notice too, as well as the clients. So I gave our notice. And I think those things are important to do, because it's very easy to talk about backing your staff and having a culture, but you're really measured by your actions rather than what you say. And so, yeah, to me, it's an obvious thing to do, because who wants to come to work and feel stressed out, and who wants to come to work and work with crappy clients? Nobody.
Absolutely. And so we've talked to a variety of folks who, have won accolades for being the best place to work. And I'd say they share a similar viewpoint in the sense that by making value-based decisions uh, the right clients will come.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to dig into that a little bit deeper. I mean, for organizations that may have paid less attention to culture in the past and are looking to improve that, their heart's in the right place, but they may be struggling with other issues. And I mean, it is hard to impact organizational change, especially with larger organizations. What's a way for these leaders to develop the right thought process, or how should they think about value-based decision making, so that they can make those difficult calls between running the business and driving revenue, but also treating their employees with according to the values that you've set forth.
So it's actually an interesting thing that you mentioned, thought process, because I think a lot of it is around thought process. And if you think about it, giving staff extra incentives like car parking is an issue in New Zealand, and all these things, in the long run, they're pretty cheap, because the cost of attrition of staff is enormous. You may think, I'm paying this person however much, and this new client comes in, and where's the value proposition? But you think about the cost of actually losing that staff member, having to retrain, and all those kinds of things. It's actually often a false economy. You might not see it immediately, but it erodes culture if there's high churn of staff. It costs a lot to employ new staff, and so the knock-on effect, it may not be immediately visible, the benefits. So you also have to think about it economically. Even though this client may be paying you, have me, $1,000 a month, and that might seem like a huge amount of revenue. Well, if you lose the odd staff member who's got relationships within the organisation, it starts to cause an unsettled motion. So there is actually a commercial reason other than just a cultural reason. So it shouldn't necessarily be a commercial decision not to engage with your staff. And the other thing is, and historically I've worked with some pretty horrible bosses, and you come into work and you don't really want to work, you do the bare minimum, and you think all they needed to do was treat me with respect, listen to me, and I work so much harder. And it makes common sense. And guys that come in to your office to work, this is a large portion of their day. When they go home, they probably talk about you at their dinner table and things like that. And so you have quite an influence on these people. And so if these people want to work for you, they understand your vision, they understand your goals, they're going to strive more, they're going to be more effective. The other thing is, if you empower people, things start to happen that you might not necessarily know would have happened. So, for example, with my ops manager that I mentioned earlier, she does really cool stuff that is beyond my mindset. All these sort of procedures get put in place. I'm not very good at putting procedures in place, but because we've given her the reins, supported her, and let her do her thing, she's doing things above and beyond. And if you get these people who are really competent and are really excellent, they're actually going to do more and better than you in what they love, and it allows you to focus on the bits that you love and the bits that you're going to be better at. And so I think it's a mindset. It's a mindset on how would you like to be treated if you were an employee, and how do you get the best out of the people you have without just pushing them work. Mm-hmm. Think about how you would be in that situation. If you treat them how you would want to be treated, then you can't really be doing much wrong.
Got it. And so when you are taking a meeting with other entrepreneurs, I mean, you've spoken to and mentored a lot of very successful people who have gone to create successful companies and are doing very well. What are some of the pitfalls that you would say come with just the sheer drive to grow, or the sheer drive to drive revenue? I mean, what are some of the things that people overlook when it comes to this? I mean, how much of your conversations with entrepreneurs cover things like employee engagement and culture, building a healthy one?
So the biggest thing to me, and it ties into culture, is the ability to delegate. So the entrepreneurs who I've found who have not been as successful, not grown as fast as they could, have generally been a bottleneck in their business because they feel they can do it better than everybody else. And so they have to have their hands on everything. And that's not scalable. And you can't do that and scale a business. You have to find people that you can trust and that are better at their job than you are. And then once you have the ability to actually delegate, it frees you up to focus on what you should be doing. And there's so many entrepreneurs that I've met have really struggled with that delegation because it's natural, it's human nature to believe that you can do things well, especially if you're an A player, a high D. And that ability to delegate is massively important in growing a company. Then further on from that, the culture is also massively important. There's such a high demand for staff, especially in our industry. My guys get approached by LinkedIn every day or two, and they could probably get paid more. And so that culture is crucial in maintaining people, maintaining the right people, keeping the right people, and engaging with them so that they want to work for you. But it is difficult if you grow really rapidly, and we've been in the fastest 50 growing companies in New Zealand for the last 3 or 4 years. And when you grow rapidly, it's really hard to keep that culture, because when you start, everyone's got the same goal, and people buy into your mission. When you start to get layers and you get bigger, that mission gets diluted. And so it's really important to keep communicating that vision and make sure that people understand what your purpose is, because if they're in a little silo, they might not necessarily see the big picture, and they might not necessarily buy into that. And you know, we've hit speed bumps as we've grown with people not buy into the vision, etc. And so you have to keep making sure that people understand the value of that mission. Another thing is, as you grow quickly, you are going to pick up some bad eggs, no matter how good your recruitment process is. And it's the ability to deal with those bad eggs quickly. A case in point is when we were a few years ago, we brought someone on, and technically brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but they weren't nice to people. They didn't treat people with respect, and it started to erode our culture. And I'm not naturally a confrontational person, and so I let it drag on a bit too long, but I knew it had to be done. And ultimately, when we moved this guy on, it was palpable, the change in atmosphere in the office. And it just makes you realize that the quicker you deal with these things, if you know in your gut, just deal with it quicker, because the longer it happens, it's like a cancer, it grows and it impacts the organization. And if you leave it longer and longer, it's going to have more and more of an impact. And so I've learned that if you know, and if people are telling you, just deal with it and move on, because it's, you know, culture is everything.
Absolutely. And so that begs the question, I think, which is, I heard this this notion of the fallacy of preserving a culture, in the sense that to preserve a culture is almost impossible if you're a growing and changing organization, because it is ever changing, and one needs to keep tabs on it constantly to make sure that it's in good health. What are your thoughts on the frequency at which leaders should be checking in with their employees to gauge the organizational health and make changes like that, or make small course corrections or big ones?
So I think it's important to, as a leader, to always make sure you speak to everyone and make sure they understand that they can come and talk to you. Here we've actually got a chief happiness officer, and she puts together things like team building days. We're taking the whole company as a group to Spookers, which is like this haunted attraction, which will be fun in a couple of weeks. But it is difficult, but it's certainly not impossible. You look at some of these massive organizations that have got amazing cultures, so if they've done it, it's definitely possible. One thing that we do every year, or two things we do every year, so are really good for that. So we hire a yacht, and over Christmas time, the entire company goes out on this yacht. We've got a beautiful harbour here, and we go out to one of the islands, and we do barbecue on the yacht. And that's a really good, even the directors come, it's a really good mechanism uh, for retaining that culture across everyone. And then at Christmas, we do, rather than going to a restaurant or something, we actually have a big barbecue on the beach or by the beach, and everyone's allowed to bring their partners, their kids. It's like a proper family affair. So we have a large number of people, and the company pays for all the food, the drinks, and actually runs the barbecue and things like that. But it's so in line with our culture. So we get to meet sometimes people's parents that come along. We kind of feel the more the merrier. It's in our culture, and it starts to let the partners of people understand what the company is about, because sometimes it's partners that have an impact on the actual people in the organisation. And so if they start to feel a bit of love for the organisation, it actually has a positive impact. So we do that every year, and someone dresses up as Santa, and we always have loads of kids running around, and they get presents, and we do like a Secret Santa and all sorts of things. And people love it. It's really good. And so it's not a stuffy thing where you sit around a table, you don't necessarily get to talk to everyone. We literally, it's like half a day, 3/4 day. And, some of the younger guys take it late into the night. So that's good. It's really good.
Interesting. So it sounds like even with events that are, traditionally designed for team building or to foster or to build bridges between employees and their connections with their surroundings and their families and environments, you're still being very, very intentional about making sure that this is a way for everyone to engage with the company and build culture just outside the office as well.
Absolutely. We also do other things, like last year we did something called the Oxfam Trail Walk, which is a 25-hour walk through that thing. So we had a team of people that actually did the walk. So they were training for months, and we raised money for Oxfam on it. Then there was also a support team from the company who put their hand up, who went in a vehicle which follows along with water and keeps them motivated. And the entire company got involved, and that came from someone within the company wanted to do that, and they championed it. Another thing that we're doing at the moment is there's a cool business in New Zealand called Eat My Lunch. And what they do is you buy lunch from them, and they give away another lunch to a school kid. There's quite a lot of school children in New Zealand who don't have any lunches, and so this business is actually a for-profit business. So what we're doing as a company is we volunteered to go pick up these lunches and drop them off at the schools. And as a company, there are 4 or 5 of us in each car, and we get to do that. And it's nice to give back, and people like that. Again, it helps build the culture of the company.
How do you think that organizations over time, it seems that as younger workers join the workforce, they're more interested in providing good to the world, in addition to having a career and bettering their skills. How do you feel that it's evolved in your organizations over the years? This notion that a company can't just be there for profit, but also needs to do some kind of good for society.
So my wife's a social worker, so it's been kind of drummed into me for many years. But funnily enough, Tiny Pulse has been quite useful in that, because it allows people to give anonymous feedback, also anonymous suggestions, and a lot of these things have been delivered through that channel. Right? Recently, someone talked about doing some more corporate responsibility or social responsibility things, and that's actually why we did the Eat My Lunch thing, because clearly people are asking for that. So what we did is we then went out on Slack, because it's anonymous, so we don't know who it was. Went out on Slack and asked, what if people want to get involved in that, and it was a pretty resounding yes. So having these different means of communication, be they anonymous, like Tiny Pulse, be they not anonymous like Slack, it's really good for people to have their voice and actually create change within the company. Because as a leader, you don't know everything. You have to learn, and you have to feel for the pulse of the company. And myself, I'm quite a hands-off leader in that I've got a general manager, I've got an ops manager, various levels, and I'm not a sort of micromanager. So it's sometimes difficult for people on an individual level to communicate what they want, and sometimes people aren't comfortable doing that with me. So having these different mediums to do that allow everyone to have a voice, and can only help the company.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Richard Conway of Pure SEO, for joining us. I think we'll call that a video. For all you leadership warriors out there, be sure to follow Richard and Pure SEO at pure_SEO. Check them out at pureseo.co.nz, where you can learn how to run your web traffic up like the pros do. If you have questions for me or one of our experts like Richard, send me an email over at dearandrew@tinypulse.com. And until next time, to happier employees.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.